Hello, I'm Stuart Nachbar for Educated Quest. With me now is Jane Silverstein, a very recent graduate of Indiana University in Bloomington. Jane is talking to me from Bellevue, Washington, just outside of Seattle. She grew up in Ohio, moved westward, and then came back to the Midwest for college. Jane, thank you for spending time with me today.
Thank you, Stuart, for having me.
When you were searching for a college, what was important to you?
For me, since I'm a very big sports fan and my major is sport marketing and management, I wanted to have a school with a lot of school spirit and specifically a big sports emphasis. So whether that was just Big Ten football or basketball, I wanted somewhere that had people that were wearing the school on their t-shirt and walking around and were really like proud of their school. So going to Indiana was kind of perfect for me because they did have Big Ten sports and it felt very school spirit oriented.
Where else did you consider besides IU?
I applied to University of Oregon, Colorado Boulder, Washington State, Tulane, and then I also applied to University of Miami in Florida.
What made you say yes to IU?
I really loved the Midwest and that quintessential college town feeling. I don't think I wanted at the time didn't want to go to school in a big city because to me it didn't feel like college necessarily. I felt I wanted to be in a college town with little shops and a little tiny street with what like that was the only thing to do in the town. So also having that specific sport marketing and management major at Indiana made it a lot easier to know that what I was going to study and made and compared to other schools that didn't necessarily have that major or the curriculum didn't fit what I felt like I wanted at the time.
Can you walk me through the major? You arrive as a freshman, you know you want this major. Walk me through freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year a little bit.
Sure. So you can get directly admitted to the major, but I don't know anybody that did that just because I wanted to take classes that were sort of prerequisites to get into the major. So freshman year, I took my general education requirements of calculus and English, and I'm also a Spanish minor, so I was taking Spanish classes at the time. And then you also do take an introduction to sport marketing class, which sort of weeds out the kids that and students that don't necessarily feel that that major is right for them. So it's a large lecture hall of 200 kids. And then sophomore year is where you start to, where you can get admitted to the program with a GPA of a base GPA of 3.0. So after your freshman year, sophomore year, you're taking more sport marketing focused classes of you've now are in the next level of introduction to sport marketing, and you're taking a sponsorship course and maybe a sales course from professors who either work in the sport place, like the sport organizations for Indiana, or professors just who have majored in this and have a doctorate. So then past freshman and sophomore year, you're taking more focused classes that sort of get smaller and smaller as you go on.
Did you do internships while you were pursuing the major?
Yes, well, not at school, but during the summer. So after my sophomore year of college, going into my junior year, I worked for T-Mobile here in Bellevue in their sport marketing division since they sponsor Major League Baseball and the Home Run Derby. So I worked with them, and then going into my senior year, I worked at a small sport media agency in New York City.
Now, how would do you feel you were well served by the major versus, let's say, being a marketing major at the business school?
I do think that having a specific focus sort of gives me I know I'm just recently graduated, but it's sort of an expertise of I've I've solely focused my studies on how to market sports and something that interests me. Whereas in the business school, I know that their curriculum is vastly different. If they have to, you can't declare a major until your junior year. So you can focus on marketing, but you also have to take finance and accounting. And so you really don't start taking your marketing courses with a focus in marketing until your junior year in the business school. So I think my major of sport marketing gave me a broader image of marketing, but also I got to focus solely on sports, which I liked.
Now, the major is in the School of Public Health.
Yes.
And in the School of Public Health, did they have their own requirements for all the students who were in their school beyond what you have in the major? Or was it just the major's requirements you had to worry about?
I just had to worry about the major requirements. So taking taking the prerequisites to get into the next level course, or having you have to pass some prerequisite courses with a C or better. So just that my major just had certain requirements. In the school, I mean, to graduate, you have to have a GPA that is passing. That was in the School of Public Health, but mostly it's just my major that had requirements.
So you didn't need to take a biology class if you didn't want
No,
to. You didn't need kinesiology if you didn't want to.
my major my major had you have to take a math course and a writing an English course, but I didn't. And then for my major, I also had to take a kinesiology. But in the School of Public Health, each major has a different. They call it a degree map, and so anybody that's considering IU can search Indiana University Sport Marketing and Management degree map, and it will tell you sort of what classes, how many credits you need in each category, which was super helpful.
Now, what were some opportunities that IU, aside from being in the major, what were some of the other opportunities that you received through IU that you might not have received if you went somewhere else?
I think that being at IU is a unique experience because not a lot of people know this, but the NCAA headquarters is in Indianapolis. So a lot of professors have once worked at the NCAA or are an adjunct professor and still work there. So they provide a lot of interesting stories and experiences and opportunities for students to travel to Indianapolis to go to seminars or meet with executives there. And the Big Ten championships, basketball championships, are held at Lucas Oil Stadium or Bankers Life Fieldhouse. Sorry. So for the sport marketing major, it was very interesting to have sport executives so close to Bloomington, but also just IU in general. Clubs are a very big focus. So whether that's in the Greek system or in the business school or even in the School of Public Health, a lot of students are involved in clubs where you can meet with professors and other students with like-minded interests. So they do provide a lot of opportunities to sort of grow your interests.
How far is Bloomington from Indianapolis?
It's about an hour drive, which
Did you take advantage of some of the opportunities like the Big Ten tournament or a Colts game or things opportunities to interact with the NCAA?
so one of my teachers works in the NCAA in their legal department, and he taught a sports law class. So he brought in students that were his interns, and we got to talk with them and have sort of one-on-one panels. And it was mostly just I took advantage of the opportunities of speaking with when they would come for guest speakers. I would go up to them, and it's very easy in classes that are kind of large lecture halls. Not a lot of students take advantage of that. They're nervous or they don't want to waste their time. So I just would go up to the guest speakers, get their names and emails, and I've made a lot of connections through that. But I know that some of my professors also would hold seminars in Indianapolis, and I also didn't have a car, which was sort of a bummer. And I was involved in Greek life, so some of their seminars would conflict with my responsibilities. I was on the board of my sorority, so I didn't often necessarily attend the seminars, but I would meet with the executives when they came to Bloomington.
What would you say the dream job would be And what further education do you think you might need?
Right now, my dream job in 20 years would be to eventually work at Nike or Adidas in their sponsorships division. So leading their global sponsorships team and working with um, agencies to sort of make those partnerships. And I think the only further education I personally might consider would be law school, but it's very daunting at the time right now, but perhaps I might pursue going to law school.
Did the sports law course make you think about that?
Yes, that was very, I enjoyed learning about contract law, and I was sort of interested in the career paths that you need a law degree. So perhaps working for an agent, being a sport agent, or working at an advertising agency with their trademark and copyright. So that course definitely did broaden my thought process on law school.
Did you you talked earlier about working in sponsorship marketing. Did you learn about significant differences between working with college sports and working with professional sports?
Yes, that is a big focus at IU in the program. We take specific courses for college, intercollegiate or college sports, and then there's a professional sports course. So learning about amateurism and how student athletes aren't professional athletes yet, and what that entails. So I learned the difference, which has also made me realize I don't necessarily want to work in college sports, but if the opportunity presented itself, I would take that position if it was right for me.
What kind of position would you take working? Would you stay on the sponsor side, or do you think you'd want to work for like an athletic department?
I think that I would want to work for a brand, so Nike, Adidas, like a T-Mobile, and not necessarily on that college team side.
What was it like on campus when the pandemic really hit during the spring?
So I came home in on March 12th for spring break, and I didn't ever go back to school. So the week leading up to spring break, people were sort of, our professors were talking about, would you guys want to have online classes? And it felt like they sort of knew that we were transitioning to an online model. And so kids, especially my senior year, a lot of my friends were very nervous about, oh my gosh, our senior year is ending. What are we going to do? Are we ever coming back? So it was sort of bittersweet to uh, realize you're never going back to college and having that college experience. But also I felt like it was out of my control, and I couldn't necessarily do anything to go back. So it was kind of interesting and a weird time to be a senior in college. I realized, oh wow, I'll never have that college experience. And now being unemployed, but all of my friends are also unemployed just because there are hiring freezes and no jobs. So it was definitely a weird time.
Now, when you had to take the classes online, were classes on the same schedule as if you were on campus?
Yeah, so a lot of my teachers either set up their class um, as a recorded lecture, so you could watch it anytime, and the homework was due that Sunday. Or my teacher had a live lecture on Zoom, so you had to show up at the required time that you were to go on campus. But they also were very flexible because they knew that not everyone was in an environment to take online classes. So some of my classes just switched to completely recorded lecture modules, and only one of my teachers did a live lecture.
So you didn't have to worry about a time difference.
He was My professors were very flexible, so I'm 3 hours behind. So they knew that if I couldn't make it to a discussion or a lecture, it wasn't going to hinder my grade.
Were your two professors equally engaged as if you were on campus? They at least tried to be.
I think yes, they tried to be for what the situation was. They felt like, I think some of them had to sort of be more engaged because kids were online, so it's hard to keep your attention when you're sitting in your living room with your dogs and watching TV and also sort of in online school.
You mentioned you were in a sorority.
Yes.
What other activities were you involved with on campus?
So I was on my executive board, so that took up my sophomore year. And then IU also presents, they have a really large study abroad program that I went to Barcelona my second semester of my junior year. So I studied abroad there for from January until April, and that was a great experience. Since I'm a Spanish minor, I really loved being in Spain and taking those courses and traveling around Europe. Um, and also, I did a semester long internship, sort of like a remote internship with like a social media app for a sports program through IU-Bloomington.
Do you think you may want to work in the sponsorship world in Spanish speaking countries?
I don't, after living abroad for 4 months, I don't think I want to move abroad, but it was a very nice experience for the time that I was there. But I think I would want to either use my Spanish speaking skills here with a client that needs Spanish speaking executives, or just, I don't think moving to Europe would be my dream.
So even if Nike sends you to Europe to negotiate with a soccer league or the
I
Olympics,
think
go to a
I would
country or something.
I would consider if it was the right opportunity for me, but I liked living there for a fixed period of time. I don't know if I could live abroad and be far away from my family and just my normal that has been my whole life here.
Who would be happiest at IU, and who would probably be better considering another school?
I think that IU would fit a student that is looking for a college town. It's that has access to a big city, but you're mostly going to be in this town of made up of college students with little unique restaurants and shops, and somebody who is really wanting to have a lot of opportunities of what to study. They at IU you can make up your own major. So the Will Shorts, who is the New York Times crossword puzzle editor, he went to IU and created his own major of crossword puzzle science.
Wow.
And so it's really an if you can meet with your academic advisor and really talk about what you are interested in, they sort of will help you find something that you really love. So there's a large global and international studies program, and the business school is really a renowned business school. So I think that somebody who's looking for a sort of stereotypical college of sports are very important, and it's like a way for kids to come together, but also um, a lot of opportunities of what to study. It's kind of the perfect school. And for me, I sort of also love that IU, it's not as high pressure as some of the other Big Ten schools. So while you are with great professors, and I did feel like I was being challenged, I didn't really have to like worry about the high pressure of people competing with me about grades. And so that also was like a nice aspect.
That's really interesting. Because some schools I think are were there schools that you thought, oh God, I can't see myself going here because the kids are going to be real competitive.
I think two of my schools that I applied to, I I was sort of concerned about like, will I like be academically prepared to like for this curriculum? And I don't want to be like so high pressure on myself of not having the college experience, of having to say no to everybody because I'm behind on my studying, or I my friends are in this class and they're asking me what grade I got. So I do think that some of the schools I applied to, I was a little concerned about that, but for Indiana, it felt like everyone, no one, none of my friends had the same major as me, which was just, but by coincidence, but also none of my roommates had the same major as each other. So it was sort of nice of like, we all had something unique to study and it was our passion. So no one felt like very competitive about the schoolwork.
When I visited IU several years ago, I was really impressed by the music school
Hmm.
and the theater departments there. Did you have a chance to ever go to concerts, see plays while you were going?
Yes. So the music school is a very good music school as well as the musical theater. So I went to see Book of Mormon in the auditorium. And so also Broadway Across America comes to Bloomington often. And it was I didn't go to concerts, but I know that a lot of my friends would go to plays. And so that was a very big part of tickets are cheap for students and that they do put on a very good show.
And the people you knew best, did they come from mainly the Midwest? Did they come from everywhere?
There is a large draw of in-state students, but so I knew a lot of kids from Indiana, but also my roommates came from New York and New Jersey and Chicago, and there's a big draw from Florida and Los Angeles area. So it felt very diverse in terms of the United States representation of lots of Midwest kids, but also lots of East Coast and West Coast.
Last question. For high school kids who are looking at colleges now, or people who are like in a community college or unhappy in the school they're currently in who are thinking about transferring, it's hard to visit now.
Mm-hmm.
So what should they do if they want to learn more about IU?
Um, well, I think that if they know any people that went to IU or want to reach out to alumni, asking somebody who went there, they can give you honest opinion about what it was like and the people there and sort of with your everyday of going to school in Bloomington. But also, I know that Indiana has a large presence on Instagram of showing around what the campus looks like. And so I think social media and just going on LinkedIn, finding people who went there, it can provide a different experience than just searching Indiana University and looking at their website and their pictures. So I think social media is a great way to connect with people or even reach out to me and I can tell you what it was like to be a student there.
Jane, thank you for the time today
Yes,
and,
thank you.
and for walking me through everything.
Yeah,
I enjoyed this. I learned a lot about the school that I didn't
good.
know. I hope
I
you
think
have a
this is a great way of letting people experience sort of a taste of college without being able to visit during this time.
well, I hope that the campuses reopen at a point where people feel
Right.
safe, not only the students but their parents as
Yeah.
well, and that everyone can feel better about a decision when
Yeah.
they know more information. Thank you
Right.
again, Jane.
Thank you so much.